Hi, I'm Simon from Chat SDK. Today we're going to be looking at how you can add the Chat SDK to your own custom project. You can see in the Add Chat SDK folder I have a test project, and I also have a version of the Chat SDK which I've downloaded from the Git repo. First, we need to copy the Chat SD files into your project. So open your Chat SDK project and copy everything except the Xcode and Xcode Swift files. Navigate to your project and then copy these outside of your project folder. Next, we need to make sure that your project is logged in with CocoaPods. So go to your project, go to your console, and then change folder to your project folder. Then call pod init, and it will create a pod file for your project. Open this pod file, and we now need to make sure that the pod file is pointing at the pod specs in our Chat SDK. Because this is a completely new project, I can delete all of this and just copy the needed text in, but it might be that for you, you need to add this to your already used pod file. You can see in this case that we are looking for the Chat SDK file, and it is in the folder above this one. We've highlighted out, commented out the Chat SDK backendless module. Backendless is the module that we use to provide push notifications. If you want to add push notifications to your project with backendless, then there's a separate tutorial on how to do that. We save that and then close that down. Now we can come back to our console and call pod install, and this will install the pods that we have just added to our project. You can see that these are all the pods that the Chat SDK relies on. We might have to wait a few seconds for this. While you're doing that though, navigate back to the Chat SDK folder, go into Xcode, and then go into the Chat SDK demo. You'll see the B Twitter helper and the Google service /info plist. We need to copy these, as these are used for logging into Twitter, and also the info plist is used for Firebase's authentication process. We need to copy those, go into our test project, and then click into the target of our test project, and we need to copy and paste those in. Now that the pods have fully installed, you might notice that there's a lot of yellow text that comes after it. This is a problem currently with CocoaPods and can be completely ignored, so don't worry about that. Okay, so now we're ready to load up our project. Remember to open the XC workspace now that you're using CocoaPods, and then drag in the Twitter helper and Google Services plist into your test project target to add them to your project. Like so. Next, you need to add some things, some fields to the info plist of your project. So load up the info plist, and then also load up the plist from the Chat SDK. We just need to copy and paste these across. The first is the Chat SDK row. Next, the app transport security section. The URL types section. Whoops. The Facebook app ID. you can see here that we have a lot of privacy entries in the plist. These are now required by Apple to enable you to access certain features in your app. So I am also going to copy these across. Like so. Now that we've got those rows all added, we need to add some code to the project itself. So load up your app delegate, and then we want to add some code from the original Chat SDK in here. So the easiest way to do this is probably to load up the Chat SDK project. Load up the Chat SDK project. In the app delegate, you need to add the appropriate imports. Now, in the did finish launching with options, you need to copy all of this and then paste it in. You can see that we need to change the main view controller just to match our main view controller, and we can copy out this main view controller. You can see that the main view controller that we're going to be setting is the app tab bar, so that will load up the login straight away for the Chat SDK. Finally, we need to go down and add, or in this case, replace all of these functions into our app delegate. It might be that your app delegate has a little bit more going on than this test project, so if that's the case, then just make sure to add them around what you currently have in your app delegate. Now, this should be ready to go. So we'll load this up. And see if it works. It's important to note at this stage that although we've now successfully added all the Chat SDK code to your project, the Chat SDK is still running on our test systems, and the Chat SDK won't run on your project due to Firebase linking a project to the bundle ID, which means that although the structure will load up, you'll still need to do some more authentication work and setup in Firebase to get it fully working. We recommend you looking at the setting up Firebase tutorial to get this working after the project has successfully run. As you can see, the Chat SDK is successfully loaded up, and you're now faced with the login or authentication screen for the Chat SDK. We have only added the authentication screen here just to show you how it will look and so you know it's working. It might be that you want to link the Chat SDK into a different part of your project. Hopefully you found this tutorial useful. If you have any problems, don't hesitate to raise an issue on the GitHub page or to send us an email, and we'll get back to you and help you fix it as soon as possible. Looking forward to seeing you again, and have a nice day.